guys, it's Beverly. So this is the intro to knitting 2 socks together. First part of the video is going to be showing you the reward for the struggle, the gain for the pain. No, seriously, it can be a little overwhelming and confusing knitting 2 socks together, but once you get it mastered, you just fiddle with it in the beginning and it's worth it as you go along. So without further ado, the first part of the video is going to show you what it looks like when you're progressed past the struggle of the beginning. So I'll see you guys at the end. Bye. Hi guys. So I wanted to show you first, before we cast on the socks, what the gain is before the pain. Because the first couple rows, they are a pain when you're doing the cast on and the other stuff, because the needles are fiddly and the yarn is fiddly. But if you know what it's the worth of it, then maybe you can struggle through it. Okay, so the first thing I do is I have to make sure that my yarn's not twisted, and I've been bringing this in and out and back and forth, so my yarn is a little twisted. So I'm going to untwist everything and set it up. Okay, so the best thing to do is ever so often, ever so many rows, kind of untangle your yarn because it gets twisted. Okay, so we have our socks. And like I said, I want to show you the gain before we get into the pain. So there's going to be some banging with these needles. That's just how it is. I'm trying to stop the noise, but it is part of it. Okay, and if we were, sitting in a comfy chair, it wouldn't be as much. Okay, so I've got my pink and my blue needles, and of course you're going to see me struggle getting over this hump on here. But the first thing you do is you have 2 sets. So the front of the sock in my case is on the pink needles, and the back of the sock is on the blue needles. The pink ones are Susan Bates. The back ones, I don't know what they are. Now you'll notice on the front side of the sock, I have a stitch marker marking that this is the front. Okay, so the first step is to take, I'm trying to keep it away so that the needles don't bang. So I'm just moving the stitches on my needles, and it works out best if you keep the socks side by side. You just have to make sure you're using the correct working yarn. Okay, let's see, where am I at? How you tell where you're at is where the working yarns are. So the working yarns should be in the back. Okay, so let's figure this out. Yep, the working yarns are in the back. See, the working yarns are in the back, so that means we're working on the blue ones. So we're working on the back of the socks. Okay, so I'm pushing these over, and you can see the struggle that I have getting over these humps on the needle. So I'm moving the sock over to the working yarn. I'm taking the working needle. I'm taking the other end of the blue needle. The working yarn is in the back. I'm going to insert. Now these are, at this point I'm doing all knit stitches. So I'm going to insert in the first stitch. I'm going to work comfortably. The second stitch, I'm going to pull the working yarn, and then I just knit normally. So I have 24 stitches. So I'm just going to pause the video so you don't have to watch me knit 24 stitches. Okay, I finished knitting 24 stitches. Now my socks are separate. I dropped the working yarn I was using on this right sock. I have my stitches moved up for the other sock. I reach behind and get the working yarn for the other sock. And of course it's twisted, but that's okay, that's part of this. So now I go ahead, I grab the working yarn from the other sock, and I knit the first stitch just real calmly. The second stitch, I pull the yarn tight, which will close the gap on the sock. Then I just knit normally. Knit all the stitches all the way across. And I don't want you to get bored watching me knit these stitches, but we can take and move this other sock down the needle. I keep them close together. It's just easier when you go from sock to sock. Okay. Almost done, so I'll let you stay. Hopefully you won't get bored. So let's undo some more yarn. Got a couple more stitches, and see, we're just gonna knit these right off. And so we have completed a row of the back of our sock. Okay, now I take and I pull this needle through the back of the socks. Okay, I pick it up and I turn it. The working yarns, but you can untangle them, go to the back, working yarns to the back. The stitch markers are the front of the socks. The front of the socks, in my case, are worked with the pink needles. So now what I do, and I hope the needles don't hit, but they probably will, is I move these stitches over. And see, this is what I've been having trouble with, which I wanted to try the other needles, because I have to kind of fight. Every single row I have to fight and get these stitches over here. Okay, now I take the other needle, the pink needle, and the working yarn is here in the back. I insert the needle and I knit the first stitch, slip the marker, insert the needle, and I pull the working yarn tight on the second stitch to close the gap. And then I knit all the way across. And now when I get to the end of this, I will drop this working yarn, pick up the working yarn back here, and knit the front of this sock. And this is how I knit 2 socks together. When I get 18 inches, these are tube socks. And I'll read my notes here, which I posted this on my YouTube before when I've talked about socks. But I use a size 6 needle. Again, you use whatever size that you would like. For a 1 ply using the size 6 needles, I cast on 48 stitches, which would be 24 on each side. And you're going to see how to do that shortly. I do 2 inches of my ribbing. So then I do 2 inches of cuff. Then I do 9 inches, 7 more inches, which would get me to 9. Then you would do your heel. But in my case, I make a tube sock. if you were going to make with the heel, you'd put your heel in, and then you would knit for approximately 6.5 inches, and then do your toe. But the way I do it is a 2-inch cuff, and then I measure until I have about 17 inches, and then I start the toe. I do a decrease, and then I normally do the Kitchener toe, or you can do any toe that you would like. And so the socks, tube socks, end up being approximately 18 inches. So 2-inch cuff, and then I do approximately to 17 inches, then I decrease, and then do my toe. So that's the socks, but I wanted you to see first how it works, so that when you struggle with the next section, you'll know that it truly is worth it. So I'll catch you guys later. Hi guys, it's Beverly. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and record this and see how it comes out. Now, this is the yarn that I got from Christy to do for the Halloween challenge. And it's sock yarn wool from Hobie, and the color number is number 3. And what I did was I started out with the skein, and I pulled out some yarn from the center and some yarn off of the outside, and it wasn't coming off in the same colors. Like the top was purple then black, and then the center was black then purple. And if they would have pulled off the same, I would have been pulling from the center and pulling from the outside, and I would not have had to make a cake. But I'm going to try my best to make the socks matching. So the first step was to see how the yarn was pulling off of the skein. Second step was saying, oh no, that's not going to work. Let's make a cake. And as you can see here, I kind of had a little bit of issues winding my cake. Okay, there's the end. And my friend says that my cake winder, yarn winder, isn't the way it should be. So I probably need a new one. Okay, so here we go. So this is purple going into, so let's just keep pulling it, into this like other purple. How's that? Okay, so let's see what we've got. Now, from the center of this other one, I've got purple going into the, cool, I got it. They're both going in the same direction. So now what I want to do is I want to take and see how long the purple section is. So I'm just going to take this. So my purple section on my cake is a lot longer than the purple section on the skein. So what I'm going to do, I gotta go get scissors. I forgot scissors. I'm going to cut this. And I've got just a little bit of purple over here that I'm going to put aside. Now, I hope you can't hear the fan, but if you do, it's kind of a necessity. Okay, so these are the needles that I bought. One is the Smart Stick Knitter's Pride. The other is the Addy Rocket. They are both size 6, and they both have a 24-inch cable. So I'm going to start with these. And what I need to do is separate the yarn here. And we're going to start with the cake yarn first. Okay. And cast on our stitches. Now I forgot to go get the pattern. Okay, so let me go get the pattern. So I'm going through my folder here of sock patterns, and here's my paper. And this is a typewritten pattern that I came up with a combination of other people. So what I'm going to do right here is what it says. 1 ply socks do 48 stitches. So half of 48 is 24. So what I'm going to do, now there's more than one way to cast on. So I'm just going to cast on like I normally do. So I'm just going to cast on 24 stitches. I'm going to start by making a slip knot, and you can give yourself a fairly long tail. And there's my slip knot. And I'm going to cast on 24 stitches. So this is how I do my cast on, you guys. I've got my slip knot on my needle. And whatever size needles you want to make or use for your socks is up to you. I use size 6 because you can see I have larger hands and I don't want to use those teeny tiny needles. So I've got my first here. I'm going to take, there's my working yarn. This is the tail. On the left side is the tail. I take and I put my thumb underneath, and then, so we're going to be doing this 24 times, so I'm sure you're going to get it. Okay, I put my thumb, I take my needle with my right hand and swoop up that yarn. I take my left, I also don't know my left from my right. So with my left thumb I go under, with my right, and then I go over. So now I have 4. The slip knot counts as a stitch. Under the thumb, scoop it up, and see I'm pinching the needle, bring it up, down, and over. Again, my thumb, swoop it, hold it with the left pinchers. There you go. There you go. Under my thumb, scoop it up, pinch it, bring the right up, pull it down, loop over. Thumb, thumb, scoop it, pinch it, bring it around, flip it over. And I don't do it too tight because remember we have to get inside those. So right now I have 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So I got 14 more. thumb, pinch, over, thumb, pinch, over, thumb, pinch, over, thumb, over, over. Now the thing is, when I'm doing a whole bunch of stitches, now will have to say these darker needles, I can't see the stitches as well to count them. When I'm doing a project that requires more than 25 stitches, what I do is I do 25 and put a stitch marker, and then 25 and do a stitch marker. And that way I know when I get up, like I have to do 100 or whatever. So I put stitch markers after every 25, but I'm only doing 24 on this side. So pinch, bring it up, flip it over. And this is how I always cast on. Yes, there are other ways to do it, but this is the way I do it. Also, I do not continental knit. I haven't continental knitted enough to trust my tension. I like it, especially the purl I like. Now I need to stop here and count my stitches. I have to put on 4 more. 1, 2, 3. Let's put this needle up here and maybe it won't make so much noise. 4, and that's 24. And I gotta make sure, see, I will say these needles, I can't see this color yarn on this blue as well. Okay. Okay, so I got 24 stitches. Now, let me take a look at my tail, which still looks good. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're still gonna work with this needle. We're going to push these stitches and we're going to do our next sock. So this would be considered, we'll say, the right sock. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave this yarn here and push it down. We're going to grab the tail on our other yarn. So this is the one on the skein. And we're going to make a slip knot. So I'm off camera making a slip knot. Okay, the same needle, see my stitches? I'm going to put that next. So on the right I have the cake, on the left I have the skein. So there's my slip knot, and I'm going to cast on 24 stitches, and I'll meet you back. Okay, so now I casted, I finished casting on the 24 stitches for the second sock. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to take the other needles. So these are the Knitter Pride. This one I have in my right hand is the Addie. Okay, so now we have to cast on the next 24 stitches. Okay, so now we're ready to do the other side of this sock. And as you can imagine, all this stuff is tangled. but I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, now I have my second set of needles, and this is my tail, which goes around my thumb. And what you do is you hold this really close to this other needle, okay? And see, it's gonna slip out, so you have to hang on to it. So I'll do that again. So there's the needle. And we're gonna do it around our thumb. Okay, I'm gonna pinch it, bring the working yarn up here, and give it a pull. Okay, and it's okay as long as you've got a stitch on there. Swipe it again. I'm pulling this right one a little tight. Go around and flip this one over. Okay, now I don't want you to worry that if this gets too long. Try your best to keep them close, but we can fix that later. So we're going to take our thumb, swipe it, pinch it, bring the right yarn, I've got it a little tight, and then flip this over. And see, look, see this needle? Why is it here? It's just part of it. Okay, now you can start letting this other needle go, because we're going to concentrate on this one. And you can see why it helps me that they're not the same color. Okay. Now, the other types of cast on might be easier for this, but this is how I do it. Again, bring up my right one, flip it over, go around my thumb, pinch it, bring the right one, and flip it over. And that same needle is flopping around, so I'm going to pause. Hopefully that needle won't make a noise. Okay, so there it is, and then bring this over and flip it over. And see, the thing is, these projects, the first couple rows are always the worst, and that's when people get discouraged. And it's so disappointing, but that's the way it is. Now there was that needle again. It just likes dancing around. Okay, so you can see what I'm doing, so I'm going to go ahead and finish casting on our 24 and meet you back. Okay guys, so here we have cast on this 24. Now the reason I wanted to do this video was because the woman that I watched did not show you all the steps like I'm going to. She did not show you what it looked like when you were at this point. She did not show you that you need to turn your needle. Okay. So did you guys see that? It was like this. So now we're going to turn the new needle to the right. Okay. And of course we have all this. She didn't show that your yarn's going to be tangled or none of that. Okay. So what we have to do is we have to get this new needle over to the other side so we can, she didn't show me this part. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this top needle and we're going to pull it through. Okay, you see that? This is the one with the 2 on them. And we're going to pull that through, and you're going to hear noises in this video. Okay, And you can see the yarn's all tangled, but that's okay, that's real life. That other woman did not show me real life. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I need to get over here so that I can cast these on. Alright, so I need to take this needle and pull it. Okay, so now I have a tangled mess, but you just have to breathe and get through it. Okay, so I'm gonna just undo everything. So this right here is one sock. Okay, so we have the one sock over here on the right, and then now what we're going to do is from here's the new needle in my right hand, and we're going to leave these stitches on the cord. Okay, and we are going to make our stitches from the cord. Okay, so here's the cord, and now we have to find the tail and the working yarn. So we're going to go ahead here to make sure I got these going the right way. We're going to put the tail around our thumb and put that needle through there. Take the working yarn and making sure that it's coming from the other ball. Let's see, I'm not sure that I am. Yeah, I have to be. Okay, because it's right here. So now I take and put it around and pull up a stitch around your thumb. Oh gosh, let me do that again in case I was out of camera. Okay, so on this side is the tail. On the left side, put your thumb, put your needle right there, pinch it, and bring up the working yarn. Pull it tight. Don't let it go anywhere. Around your thumb. Come from the right. Go over. Around your thumb. See, it's getting easier as we go here. And don't worry about this amount. Do the best you can. Okay. And over and pull this tight. Yarn over. Pull it tight. And there you go. So see what we're doing? We're going to go right along here. We're going to end up with both of our needles on this side. I'll meet you back when I get all 24. Okay, so here's what I ended up with. Now my hands were kind of sweaty and nervous here, but what you do is you push these stitches. I'm going to show you what it looks like. Now she didn't show us this part. She just showed you when it was all nice and neat and pretty. But I want to show you what it looks like in real life. Okay. And of course you're hearing clanging and banging, and that's what yours is going to be doing. So we're just going to push these on the cord and push these on the cord. and look at what we have. Because it's not all sunshine and roses, and that's what she showed you on the video that I watched. Okay, so that yarn can come right out. Okay, and there we have it. Okay, so there's our 2 socks. And of course, you have to make sure your stitches are not twisted. See how they look nice? You don't want them to be twisted. And then over here, see, it's all twisted. But there is your socks. And there they are. Okay. And then what the next step is because the working strands are closer over here. See, the working strands are over here. And the working strands are here. So these 2 get pushed back over here. So let's slowly push them over. And see, now you can see why I wanted needles that didn't have a hump. So you can see what I'm doing, just push them over and I'll meet you back. Okay, so as you can see, I struggled, and you'll be struggling too, to get the stitches over to one side. Now you turn it because you're going to start knitting from this way. Okay, you're also going to have all these yarns tangled, but don't give up on yourself. Okay, and see, this is that other one that's always in the way. Trying to get it over here so that it won't make noise. Now, the first thing you have to do is you have to realize that one of these is your tail, and we're going to have to cut it because you already have enough strands that are in your way. Okay, so I'm going to take and figure out which is the tail. Okay, and that's the other yarn. So I'm going to figure out which one is the tail here. And it looks like that it's this one right here. Nope. Is it this one? Yes. Okay, you figure out which one is the tail. And then you can cut it off because you don't need that much. Okay? And that's one more yarn out of your way. Okay? Now you're probably going to notice that the yarn from the other side is tangled in. And see, here it is right here. So I'm going to figure this out and take this cake and get it away from my other yarn. See, it's all gone over here to the other side so it can make some more noise. I got something here I'm going to put so it can't maybe bang against it. Okay, so what I did was I kind of narrowed the field here. Now, you want to get your stitch markers ready, which I did have them ready. But now, of course, they're on the floor. So what I have is 2 stitch markers. And remember, I bought these new ones so I'd have one at one color and one at the other. Okay. Now, the deal here is you want to Okay, so now what you have to do is you have to make sure that these needles aren't twisted. Okay. I mean, the stitches aren't twisted. Okay. Which is pretty difficult. Okay, so I gotta decide which direction I want this to go in. And you want the needle with your working yarn in the back. And you want to take your working yarn and flip it over the top. Okay, so we're going to take, we have two different kinds of needles, and that means we're going to knit with the same kind of needle and then knit with the same kind of needle. Okay, so we're going to take and move the stitches to this end of the needle. Okay, I cut my tail, and we're not going to be using the silver needles right now. We're going to be, in this case, using the blue one. So what we have to do is get it close enough so that we can use that yarn, but we're not going to use that needle. Okay, and I'll show you what I mean. So here's the needle, the other blue needle, and that's why I like having two separate pairs. Okay, we're going to take and try to make sure the stitches are not twisted, but we can fix that when we get to the end of the row. So that looks pretty good like that. Okay, so I'm going to take this new needle, and I've got the other blue needle in my hand, and I'm going to go in as if to knit. I'm going to take the working yarn from the silver needle back here, okay, and bring that up. So I got the working needle from the silver needle and bring that up and towards me. And I'm going to knit with it and knit this off, okay? So it works better if this other needle is pulled down because you don't have that in your way. So we knitted the first stitch, and we don't have to worry that much about the tension on the first stitch. We're going to take a stitch marker. We're going to come around and get the next stitch, find the working yarn, and pull it tight and knit the second stitch. Okay. Oh, I lost my stitch there. It's gonna happen to you too, probably. There we go. Okay, so I got my first stitch, and let's put this back. Come over here and get my stitch, pull it a little tight, and there's two stitches. Now I'm gonna purl two. I hope I didn't confuse you guys, but you're gonna see it a lot more. And here's the purl. And then back. So see what you've got? There's your sock. Let's see. Let's kind of untwist it. There we go. But you can see what we have. Okay. And don't worry about this. We're going to be pulling this in later. I got to put the fan on. Okay, so now we're ready for 2 knits. So I got the yarn, a working yarn in the back. And so we're gonna knit. And then we're gonna purl. Now when you are doing this in your lap and not on a table, it will be easier because all this stuff will be hanging down out of your way. Okay, so you got the idea. I'll meet you when we get towards the end here. So knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, and I'll be right back. Okay, now I want to show you where I'm at. I'm still on that first side, but I'm ready to do my final 2 last purls. But you can see I have 3 stitches on here. This one is not really a stitch. So I counted my stitches. I have 22 that I've done, and I'm going to purl these last 2 and then just pull my needle out of that phantom loop. Because with the turning and all that stuff, sometimes you can pick up an extra stitch, and we don't want an extra stitch. So I'm going to go right here and purl these 2. It was easier a second ago because it got easier as I was going across the row. You gotta get your working yarn. I'm gonna purl 2, and I'm gonna leave that little phantom stitch. I'm just gonna pull my needle right out of it. So I'm gonna bring this closer to me so that I can get this final stitch. Okay. And my other one slipped off. I'm still here with you guys. I'm purling that last one and let that phantom stitch just go off. And I'm not even worrying about it. See, I have extra length in there, but I promise you it's gonna catch in. Okay, so there was our first part of our sock. Now we're still working with the blue needles. So what we need to do is get this figured out. Okay, so what we've got, so we've got a mess. But you gotta be patient with yourself. Now, grab this other needle, your other blue needle, and we're going to knit the other side of our sock. We're working on the front, and we're just gonna push these stitches to this needle. Okay, and we're working with our blue needles like so. So we're still on the blue needles. We're dropping this working yarn because that's the working yarn from the other pair of socks. Okay, now we're working on the other front. All right, so what we need to do is, this is our working yarn over here on the left. So again, let's figure out which is our tail and which is our working yarn. Okay, so you can see there's the tail. So I'm going to bring the tail up to the sock right here, and I'm going to cut it because I don't need that extra length in my way. Okay. Now I've got the 2 blue needles together. I'm going to drop the working yarn from the sock that was on the right, and I'm going to use the working yarn from the back of the other sock. So you can turn it around and see this one is a little bit easier to get straight. Okay, so the shorter one is the tail. This one is the working yarn. We're moving the other sock away from us, and we're gonna work on this sock. Okay, so we can pull this up. We're gonna go in here and get our first stitch. And let's find our working yarn again. There it is. And there's the tail. So we're going to go in. Move this other sock out of the way. And knit the first stitch. Okay, now don't worry about drawing it up yet. Get a stitch marker and put it on. Now go into the second stitch. Now pull this working yarn tight. Then go ahead and finish the knit stitch. Okay, then take the working yarn, put it before you, and do your purl, and do your next purl. Yarn to the back, and do your knit. Wait a minute. Knit, knit. Oh, I gotta put that to the back and do my knit. And 2 purls. And then just keep going till you get to the end, and I'll meet you at the end. And now I'm back to my last 2 purls on the front of the socks. So we just completed the first row of the front of the socks. So there we go. We're not going to worry about this. Okay, so as you saw, just that first half is a bear. Okay, so now what we want to do, we have the blue needles. We're going to take and pull that through so that we come back like this. Okay, now we're ready to work the back half of the socks. And the back half of the socks I know I'm going to do with my silver needles. The blue ones are going to hang around. Okay. So what the first thing you have to do, is See, you just turned it. So you're ready to work on the back half of the sock. So we're going to take and push our sock, the back of our sock, up on the silver, or in my case, silver needles. And the blue one, I have the cords just hanging out. Okay? So go ahead and fiddle with that. Okay, so on my silver needle, I've got my back of my sock up towards the front, and the front of my sock is just hanging out. Now I'm going to take the other silver needle, bring it over here to the front. Okay, there's the working yarn. So the working yarn should be coming from back here. Okay, so have the needle. Okay, so now I take the needle, and I don't need a stitch marker on this side, and I got to figure out if that's 2 stitches or 1, and it looks like it's, let's count them. Yeah, that's 2. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go inside there. Grab my working yarn. There's no tail on this side. Grab my working yarn and knit the first one. No stitch marker. Go in to knit the second one. Now I pull my working yarn tight. And that helps to close the gap between the front of the sock and the back of the sock. So now I'm going to purl 2, okay, so far I'm liking those other needles better. These are the Addies, but I'm gonna keep them. Okay, and then 2 knits. And then I'm gonna finish off here. Okay, so now I'm back to my final 2 to purl. Let's see, what's this yarn? Oh, that's my tail, so that goes over here. Okay, so this is my working yarn, so I'm going to do 2 purls. Okay, now that's 1 whole sock knitted. So now what I'm doing is I'm pushing that over, and I'm going to move over here using the silver needles. And like I said, so far I'm liking the Knitter's Pride more than I am liking the Addies. Because you can see I'm having to push really hard to get these stitches up this needle. But I realize that this is wool. I do realize that my hands were sweaty. And this is the first row. So I'm going to go off camera and I'm going to work these stitches, push these stitches up to here. And then we're going to knit 2, purl 2 right here. So see, I'm all on the silver needle. And I wanted to say that you drop the working yarn for this sock and pick up the working yarn in the back here for this sock. Okay, I'm ready to purl these last 2. Okay, we completed the first row of our sock. Okay, so what I do after each row is I put them together. And I untangle everything. Okay, so you're probably gonna hear some banging. And I take a look at my yarn and I go, okay, that yarn goes on that side and that yarn goes on this side, but I put the two of them together, like so. So I have socks. And then I decide if the yarn is twisted on the two, then I pull those loose and put it back where it goes. And I just, because it can be a mess, as you saw, and it's still twisted. But that's what knitting two socks together is like. Okay, so we finished right here, so we turn it, our work, and we're going to come over here. We're going to work with the blue needle. So we would take and push this through to get the stitches up to the working needle. Grab the other blue needle. So we got blue needle. Find the working yarn, which will be in the back, which is right here. Insert. There's the working needle, the working yarn. You would insert, bring the yarn, and I knit the first stitch relaxed. I slip the stitch marker. I go in and then I pull this right hand yarn tight, and that cinches up my sock. Then I purl and knit all the way across, just like you're supposed to. Okay, and then when you get to the end over here, you move all these stitches and find your working yarn. So it is a lot of work in the very beginning, but as I showed you in the very beginning, to me it's worth it. For the outcome that you get. Because when you get done, you're going to have both pairs of, the whole pair of socks done. Yeah, I'm really liking these Knitter Pride needles. And the jury's still out on the Addies. And you to double check where you're at, just make sure you're purling on the purl stitches and knitting on the knit stitches. And you do that for 2 inches. Now see, my yarn is all tangled up, but see, you know how you can keep it separated and stuff like this, because everything's up on the table and I'm working around the camera. So I hope this tutorial helps you. Of course, I'll be showing you the socks as my progress, and please don't be harsh on the comments, because I did the best that I could. So bye guys, see you later. Well guys, what do you think? please don't be too harsh in the comments. As you can see, it was pretty fiddly. And of course, I have to film on my kitchen table with my husband, and lunch and different things, and the dryer going off and making noise and things like that. But hopefully you saw what it was and realized the concept, and it won't be as hard. The woman that I saw this and took the information from, as I mentioned in the video, she didn't really show you the struggle, you know, and I thought by showing the struggle, it would give you confidence that you can push through and make it happen. So I hope you guys like the video. I hope you guys will join me in knitting 2 socks together. So talk to you later, guys. Love you. Bye.